everyone, this is Pico Entertainment and we are back again, and here now we have another video for you, and this will be my non-spoiler review of Captain America Brave New World. Now whilst there won't be spoilers for this film, there may be ones for all other films and TV series within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so just beware when going to this overall video. Now the film itself was released on Friday the 14th of 2024 and it has Anthony Mackie in the lead role, starring alongside Harrison Ford, Giancarlo Esposito, Tim Blake Nelson and Danny Ramirez, and the film was directed by Julius Onah. This is overall the fourth installment within the Captain America MCU series and the ongoing 35th entry in the long-running Marvel Cinematic Universe. So in terms of this story, it follows the continued journey of veteran US Marine Sam Wilson. He for several years now has worked within the Avengers team as Falcon, alongside the original Captain America Steve Rogers. Now after the events of Avengers Endgame, which saw Steve essentially going into other parallel universes to preserve the Infinity Stones, he passed on his shield and mantle to Sam, who became the new Captain America, working alongside the government to combat global threats. Now months after this event, we see the newly elected US President, Thaddeus Ross, who reveals plans for a global treaty after the discovery of a new metal known as adamantium, which is found within a celestial island. Ross wants to build bridges, especially with Japan, who discovered the adamantium, in hopes of sharing use of the substance from the future. After being impressed by Sam's mission, which turned out to be saving the adamantium from falling into the hands of illegal buyers, Ross offers to work with Sam, asking if he can help rebuild the Avengers. Now things escalate when an assassination attempt is made on Ross's life after attending a conference, and Sam's longtime mentor Asai Bradley is named as the prime suspect. Determined to prove Asai's innocence, Sam goes against Ross's wishes and uncovers more shadowy figures and deeper conspirators that threaten to spark a massive war between America and Japan. So overall then, I think Brave New World as a standalone action adventure is a solid if flawed entertaining movie. Most definitely in the first half, where for at least the first hour it works very well as a grounded, leaner action film. Very much hinging on those themes of conspiracy, hidden threat, secret initiations, and as we see the heroes carrying out their investigations and coming under various attacks, it does prove to be an engrossing watch, where there is a certain pace and sense of urgency. Now yes, all of these themes of political tensions and intrigue were explored certainly in the last two Captain America movies, Winter Soldier and Civil War, and again that tone works well here, where the direction and the feel is far more serious. Thankfully the plot keeps focused. There's no side stories or enlarged mythologies here or depth into the lead characters, and overall I think that's the right choice, as that approach would have bogged this film down. This film works because it sets up the crisis and shows what the characters have to do to try and solve it. And this makes the film far more direct and gains a certain momentum, which was once more being generated in the first half. Now it's after that first hour where we get more reveals of the conspiracy and much more comic book elements being introduced is where the issues start to arise. What was first a compelling, grounded political actioner now has to become an expansive, spectacular comic book adventure, and the film doesn't cope as well with the latter department. Now this is apparent where we get two large-scale action sequences which aren't terrible by any means but do feel a bit too chaotic and rushed, and ironically the film becomes far less urgent and interesting despite the escalation. Now it's not a spoiler to mention this as it's been heavily pushed in the movie's promotion, but the emergence of the Red Hulk is probably the weakest part of the film. Now to be fair, the film does provide some sort of explanation. This isn't some random event where the character appears out of nowhere. But the presence of Red Hulk really feels unnecessary in terms of the story, and you do get a feeling as if it was something that was tacked on as part of the notorious reshoots that's been heavily criticised and scrutinised throughout this film's post-production. And perhaps this was a result of the fact that Captain America as a character and an IP doesn't have a huge selection of iconic rogue villains in the same capacity as Batman or Spider-Man. And Red Hulk was likely used to sell the movie itself, as it's too obvious an inclusion here. And again, it doesn't jive very well from the more interesting political intrigue that we saw in the movie's first half. Now in terms of the rendition itself, I think Red Hulk is mixed. There are some shots here where the CGI is okay, But there are others where it doesn't look fully rendered, and I just found it the least engaging element of the story. As is the reveal of another antagonist, which I won't spoil here, but there are links back to the Incredible Hulk film from 2008, and if you haven't watched that film, you may be slightly lost in all of the explanation around this particular character. And this is where we really needed a much more of a show, not tell approach that would have benefited the reveal of this personality far more, especially for people who, again, haven't seen the Hulk film. And if you know your comic book lore and indeed the background surrounding this character, you'll probably find the emergence a bit disappointing. Now, in terms of the actors' performances, I think most of them were very good. Anthony Mackie continues his likeable charisma to his role, and there are absolutely no issues here with him being Captain America, though at the same time he could have easily continued his role as Falcon and the film would have been no worse off, which I guess is a statement in itself. I was also very impressed with Harrison Ford as Ross. Now, when we look at Harrison Ford, without question, one of the most iconic screen actors, certainly within the 1980s, and at this later stage of his career, he could have easily phoned in his performance. But he does get a considerable amount of screen time here as Ross, and he does a good job here of creating a far more conflicted leader who initially has good intentions, but becomes increasingly under pressure to maintain peaceful relations as the conspiracy surrounds around him. And the film does devote time to see Ross going through various amounts of stress and paranoia, and I think Ford sells the performance very well, and it was quite refreshing to have this type of character, making him far more interesting than just being that stereotypical fire-breathing politician who becomes completely corrupted by his power. Giancarlo Esposito has some good moments as the other alternative antagonist, Sidewinder, but his presence is far too short-lived, and I do have a nagging feeling that originally in the first drafts he was actually the main villain, very similar to what we saw in the Baron Zemo character from Captain America Civil War. And again, I feel had they taken that direction, it would have provided much more of a lower scale but far more interesting story. Now, admittedly, the new Falcon character was a bit annoying to begin with, the typical happy-go-lucky, very nerdy type of character, and it felt a bit cliched. But later on, his character was toned down and reined in a little bit, and he did have some actually good, appealing dynamic and chemistry with Sam Wilson as well. So overall then, Captain Brave New World is a decent, solid adventure with a strong first half taken down by a more expansive but far less compelling and a bit messy second half. Now, of course, out of the 4 Captain America films, this is the weakest installment, though to be fair, the previous 3 Captain America films, without question, formed one of the best comic book movie trilogies ever. And whilst this installment pales in comparison to a certain degree, I didn't hate it. I found it to be overall enjoyable. It is easily the most superior entry within the MCU out of all of the Phase 4 and Phase 5 films, and overall I was thoroughly entertained despite a more messy second half of the film. So those are my other thoughts and feelings when looking back at the Captain America Brave New World. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I will shortly be providing a much more spoiler review where I'll go into depths much more about the elements of this film that worked well and the elements that didn't work quite as well. So look out for that content very shortly on the channel. And if you have any other suggestions regarding any other movies, television series, or any other issues within the entertainment and pop culture scene that you'd like to see me cover within the channel, then also let me know within the comments, and I will see if I can provide further commentary for you on that subject matter within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.